4th of July of 2025, Leida's husband Eric was arrested, and just a few days later, Leida ended up rushing her baby to the hospital, and her baby was later pronounced dead. And for the longest, nothing happened to Leida. Like, I was expecting Leida to get arrested and blamed for the child's death, but the state did say that they're going to do an investigation into what exactly happened, and for the longest we had no answers. Well, we now finally had the autopsy report of Leida's daughter. So this is the 6-month final summary report for child death, serious injury. This describes the baby, how it's a 1-month-old Asian baby, and it says the date of the incident was on July 5th. This is a report from the Wisconsin DCF. So it says on July 5th, the agency received a report regarding a 1-month-old baby, and they claimed that the baby was brought to the hospital with multiple injuries, and the infant ended up passing away from their injuries 4 days later on July 9th. So law enforcement was contacted, and they initiated a criminal investigation, and the medical examiner's office determined that the death was non-accidental. So they are blaming someone for it. They do note that no criminal charges have been filed in this case, and the investigation remains open, and the agency collaborated with law enforcement and medical professionals to complete the assessment. And the assessment completed by the agency found a preponderance of the evidence to substantiate maltreatment of physical abuse to the infant by the mother. Okay, so I think that answers who they think is responsible for these injuries. They note that the baby's half-sibling, her brother, was safe with family members because Leida ended up leaving the country, and she ended up dropping off her son with her parents. And it also crossed the box where it says criminal investigation pending or completed. They crossed the box and said yes. So this explains that at the time of the incident, the infant resided with her mother and her 12-year-old half-sibling. The infant's father had regular visitation in the family home, and they say that they had services. They show that they've had services recommended to them before, and they say at the time of the incident, the agency was assessing the June 28th CPS report. So before the baby even passed, they already had a CPS report that they're looking into, and they ended up being contacted by CPS by a home visit on July 2nd, and that was just a few days before Eric's arrest and just a week before the baby died. On June 28th, CPS had a report that Leida was neglecting her 12-year-old son, so they decided to start this assessment period and kind of look into everything. And during that period, they get contacted again on July 5th once the baby was hospitalized, and contacted again on July 9th once the baby finally passed away. And they ended up trying to look more into the alleged abuse of Leida's 12-year-old son, but they could not find enough evidence to substantiate those claims. They noted that CPS went to Leida's house multiple times, offering her services, asking her, is there anything you need from us? And Leida would always say, no, I'm good, I don't need anything. And I guess in June, that wasn't the only time that they had received reports to CPS about Leida. I guess on January 27th, they had a CPS report that they had to look into. They had another one on July 26th of 2022, and they ended up going and seeing the family, and at the time, Leida said, no, I don't need any referrals, I don't need no services. They note here that they referred her to services, they did screenings, they collaborated with medical professionals and law enforcement. And really the biggest takeaways from all this paperwork is, one, they noted multiple times that they have substantial evidence to prove that she was mistreating and physically abusing her 1-month-old daughter. And they also noted that the death was non-accidental. I really hope that they're able to gather enough evidence. I mean, just from the look of this report, the fact that they said they have substantial evidence to prove her mistreating and abusing this child, it makes me think that they're likely going to have enough to have a conviction. And I really hope that they do convict her, or whoever they feel is responsible for this, which I think is Leida, in my opinion, just from what I've seen. I really hope whoever was responsible for this ends up going to jail, and I hope they get life, because a life, if you're going to take a life, I feel like you should get life too, especially considering that's a 1-month-old defenseless baby, and that's a baby that you brought into this world. Like, how can you take your own child's life? And she's already facing hella charges in court. She's proven that she can't be a productive member of society without trying to take advantage of the system. She is currently facing 24 felony counts for forgery, theft, wire fraud, and bail jumping. Sarcasm ended up spilling this tea back in January. She was working for this place, and she was able to get this company's banking information from her paycheck, and also she was able to get some kind of access to some stuff on the computer because she worked there. And she ends up pretty much treating like the company's personal bank account as her personal bank account, and she's paying off bills, she's buying insurance policies and all kinds of other stuff on the company's dime, and she's not supposed to spend a single dime of their money. She was not supposed to be making any kind of purchases for this company, and they ended up getting over $14,473 stolen from them by Leida. There was a insurance premium policy that Leida had purchased in November 2023 for a artisan and truck insurance. So she was getting insurance for her tow truck business that she had started, and that was $1,400. Actually, it was $1,600. I misspoke. And then she had this CCD pre-pass, which allowed her tow trucks to skip over weigh stations, but it was a pretty penny. The next day, on November 22nd, she spent $306 on that. Then a week later, she spent another $221. Then another week later, she spent another $55. And then a week later, she spent another $216. And that's just $1,000 almost on CCD pre-passes just in the month of November alone. Well, towards the end of November, beginning of December, all in less than a month time span. And then she paid a $2,500 payment to her truck insurance premium, and then she paid another $2,500 to her truck insurance premium. I guess one of the payments did get refunded, but then she ended up paying another $2,000 later on, and she was even paying off her credit card. There was a $358 Capital One mobile payment, and the rest of the charges were just her doing the CCD pre-pass and her paying her trucking company premiums. And like I said, yeah, over $14,000 in total she had siphoned from this company just from the span of November 2023 to February 2024. So in about a 4-month period, she was able to get away with a lot. I'm surprised the company wasn't able to clock this sooner. You would think that they have some kind of counting, or they would notice this much money going missing. But I mean, when you have a bigger business like this and you got so much money going in and out, I'm sure it can sometimes be hard to keep tabs on every single dime. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. Hopefully we see justice be served soon. And thank you guys so much for watching.